Okay, in this video, I am going to go through the note catcher for the three different kinds of rocks, three major types of rocks, and this may or may not be a couple videos. We'll see how far we get in this first one here. If we have to stop and go after it, but I'm thinking this is probably going to be a couple videos. So let's rock. Let's get started here. So the first thing to recognize is all rocks are not the same. All right, there's wherever you go, there's different kinds of rocks. However, the thing about it is you can find different kinds of rocks all over the world. And you can find some of the same kinds of rocks almost everywhere, right? There are certainly rocks that are like indigenous to certain areas because of volcanic activity and these other things that we're going to talk about later. But rocks are everywhere, all right? And the size, shape, and color may be different, and how they're formed is different, but they're rocks. And the way they are formed and sometimes how they look and all that as a result of it is how scientists classify rocks into three major types, all right? And so we're going to talk about those three major types. The first type we're going to talk about in this video, I think we'll just concentrate on one here, is we are going to talk about igneous rock. All right? Now, igneous rock is what is formed when liquid rock, all right, which is magma. Now, let's talk about that for a second. Magma is what you get from volcanic activity, all right? And there's volcanoes, and there's a ton of volcanic activity under the earth, right? And so there's this stuff called magma, which is basically, you can think of it almost as liquid rock, okay? It's basically a boiling pool of rock, and there's a whole layer of it deep under the Earth's surface, all right? And igneous rocks are formed when some of this magma, gets away from that, either underground or above ground. So when it's underground, it's still called magma, all right? So we'll make a note there. We'll say magma is what it's called when it's underground. And then when it comes out to the surface of the Earth, it's called lava. We'll say, Earth's surface. So we've got magma or lava, and when it cools, it forms igneous rock. So igneous rock is what you get when magma, and we'll just call it all magma, when magma cools. All right, and you get this piece of igneous rock, all right? And it forms into a solid rock, all right? It forms a solid rock. Okay? Sorry about the glitching there. All right, and like I said, this can happen both above and below the surface. And some common characteristics of this are if it cools quickly, right? So if it cools quickly, it can be very shiny, all right? And, shiny and glassy. And if it cools slowly, it can you can get crystals, right? You can have crystals in it, or you can get gas bubbles in it, and it looks it leaves holes in the rock, right? So we'll say leaves holes in the rock. All right? And so common types of igneous rock that explain this, so like a type of the shiny rock would be something called obsidian, all right? So the obsidian would be like a shiny one. And then basalt, which is the one that cools slowly, all right? So that would be, one with holes in it. We'll just call it holy, all right? So it's got holes in it. And then if we go to the next page, we have some pictures of what this looks like, all right? So the igneous rock examples. So this right here would be obsidian, and this would be basalt, all right? You can see the obsidian is shiny. and you can see that it's glassy, right? Shiny and glassy. And you can see that this, it has holes in it, right? It's not as solid looking as the obsidian, right? But these are both forms of igneous rock. And so we're going to stop right here.